It's all coming to a head this week. I will be like Nephi, I am told, and so will you. Need you, Adam is freaking out. Is that when he found out Charles Vallow was dead?
That is correct.
A message from Lori Vallow to her brother, Alex Cox, saying bad news on our brother.
Yes.
Alex responds, what's that?
Correct.
And she says, Z.
Yes.
Revealing text messages from Lori Daybell to her brother Alex Cox just days before Charles Vallow was shot and killed. The state has rested its case in Cult Mom's trial. So is there enough evidence to convict her? Plus, a woman arrested in a murder for hire plot targeting her former news anchor ex-husband. We're talking about the wild new details out of Nashville. Also this hour, the survivor who was allegedly held captive for 20 years in a house of horrors by his stepmom is finally speaking out, and he says he's taking back control. And after nonstop talking, defendant Aiden Kearney, a.k.a. Turtleboy, takes the fifth. We'll talk about how that will tip the scales in Karen Reed's retrial. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? That's what we do every weekday morning, and we're so glad you are here for it. So grab that cup of coffee or tea or whatever you like in the morning, or if it's afternoon where you are across the pond, grab what you like. It's time for my opening statement. What a story! What an incredible story. Defendant Jose Morales is telling the jury in Connecticut. Claims he was high as the kite on PCP when an intruder with a crowbar came in and beat his girlfriend, Christine Holloway. He describes the struggle in great detail, even though he claims to not have been able to function because of how much PCP he smoked. Morales says he remembers the intruder with the crowbar threatening him to not call 911, or the same thing would happen to baby Vanessa. So he doesn't call 911, he says, for that reason. But they took baby Vanessa anyways. Says he looked around for her and then he dozed back off. Like I said, that's quite a story. I don't know who's gonna believe it, but it's a story. I tell you what, my friends, I can't wait for the cross-exam, because I say, pants on fire, Jose Morales. Your story makes about as much sense as a screen door on a submarine. And it has been 6 years that you've had to concoct that garbage story. Christine Holloway deserved far better. Baby Vanessa Morales deserved far better. And once this case is all said and done and prosecutors have a chance to cross-examine this guy, I predict that we will be one step closer, one giant step closer to justice for both Christine Holloway and her baby, Vanessa. That's my opening statement. We're going to hear more from Mr. Morales coming up in our next hour. Get ready, folks. This is a story, let me tell you. And we're going to see it all when Court TV Live begins. Right now, it's time for your daily docket. Here we go.
Can you answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, was you telling Lyle what?
My dad had been molesting me. There was no reason to lie. Clearly, he was coming to me, wanted me to do something about it.
In California, plans could change this morning for Lyle and Eric Menendez. So the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office is asking for a delay of this resentencing. They're requesting that delay just hours before the convicted killers are expected to appear in court. So as of right now, the hearing is still set for 11 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to keep you posted. If we hear anything, our team is there. And in Georgia, we've got defendant Colin Gray with a change of venue hearing happening at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. He is the father accused in the case of the Appalachia school shooter, Colt Gray. They're both facing charges in that shooting that left 4 people dead. And in Connecticut, we've got the guy I was just talking about, Jose Morales, returning to the witness stand. He's still on direct examination. Court's going to start up at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be live when it does. And now, Let's go to our top story. Lori Daybell's lawyering skills are going to be further tested today as she's going to have to navigate the charging conference in her homicide trial. The jury is going to be back on Monday for what's expected to be closing arguments day because Daybell signaled to the court her intention to rest without putting on any evidence, but she has yet to officially rest her case.
Are you going to present evidence tomorrow, either through witnesses or through your own testimony?
No, Your Honor, the defense will rest.
How long does the state anticipate its closing argument being?
I would assume probably over an hour.
How about the defense?
Less than that.
The state officially rested its case Wednesday, a detective taking the stand talking about text messages sent from Lori to her brother Alex Cox just 2 days prior to Charles Vallow's killing.
On July 9th at 9:50 p.m., does Lori Vallow send her brother Alex Cox a message, getting sleepy, so I'm going to need you to stay close to me the next couple days. Mel, too. She can't go to Utah. They are planking some kind of intervention, but want Mel out of the way, so I'm left alone. I need to come get the stuff at your house tomorrow and store it or secure it. Lots to do. Thank you for standing by me. It's all coming to a head this week. I will be like Nephi, I am told, and so will you.
All right, so are these text messages going to be enough to nail Lori Daybell? Let's bring in our legal eagles now. Attorneys John Phillips and Mario Gallucci on the show. Boy, oh boy, two heavy hitters here on this Thursday morning. All right, Lori Vallow, we know this lady has been in a world of trouble. She's already got 3 convictions for murder, but is she going to have this 4th conviction? I don't know. I'm curious what you both have to say about it. Mario, I see the head tilt there, so I'm going to call on you first. Your thoughts, please.
So I thought she did a really good job yesterday on her cross-examination. I think she's getting much better at cross-examination. She was able to use leading questions. She backed that detective up against the wall when he didn't have the information he should have had as the lead detective. They have to tie her into her brother, who actually committed the murder, who is now dead. So it's going to be very tough. It's a tough case for the prosecution here. And I thought, in the beginning, I was a little nervous for her representing herself, but she did a pretty good job yesterday. I was watching her. She did a very nice job.
Right. Yeah, she's definitely not as bad as I thought she would be. I've been saying if she had gone to law school, she'd be an average attorney, not a great attorney like you guys, but an average one. She could be your paralegal right now, I feel like, John and Mario. I have a clip for you both. And John, I'm going to come to you on the other side of this. This, I think, for a lot of people was really key, that the time that passed, as you know, the time from Charles being shot to the time that Alex actually places the 911 call, 45 minutes passed. Let's look.
So at 8:06, Alex Cox calls Lori a second time, and Charles Vallow's now been laying on the floor for at least 17 minutes.
Correct.
Understanding that the 911 call isn't made till 8:36, Alex Cox waits another 30 minutes before he calls 911.
Yes.
Did Lori Vallow ever call 911?
No.
Neither of her calls, neither of her phones.
None.
Okay, John Phillips, what do you think about this evidence?
We're all used to Lori Daybell. We've seen her evolution as a human, as a lawyer. I'm not ready to hire her, by the way. No.
Okay.
I need a paralegal, but not Ms. Daybell.
You're going to pass on call, Mom. I don't blame you, John.
But we know too much. And so from the standpoint of the jury, they've evolved just within this trial of stuff we've talked about previously, kind of how she struggled with some of the cross-examination and almost brought herself into it too much, to this now that she has figured it out, but is it too late? And so I don't know that her fate's going to be different. Certainly there's a lot more, as Mario said very well, there's a lot more reasonable doubt in this case because of the nature of the facts. But oh goodness, it's more Lori Daybell.
Oh yeah, you're right. And we do feel like we know her so well. That's a great point, John. I know. In here, Mario, going back to her doing the cross-examining, you were kind enough to give her some points here. I want to show another clip to you, and we'll talk on the other side. This is where she's crossing one of the detectives about who he spoke to after the event in question.
Adam, our estranged brother, is the only one that you got information from. Is that correct?
Can I object to the form of the question?
Sustained.
So is this your normal protocol to just talk to one witness and not all the others?
No.
Why didn't you speak to any other member of my family?
A lot of members of the family have been spoken to.
But you were not privy to any of that information as the case agent?
All right, Mario, tell me if you agree. That first question, I thought it was fine. I didn't think the judge should have sustained that objection to form of the question. It's cross. What do you think?
So I thought the question was fine also, but the thing that was very telling here is at the beginning of the trial, that would throw her for a loop. When she was sustained, she was very not able to recover from that. As you just saw there, though, and through the whole cross yesterday, every time she was sustained, she was able to think, reformulate, and then ask a question. And this is really the first time we see her using leading questions. In the beginning of the trial, she would just ask these open-ended questions and leave it wide open for a witness to say whatever they wanted. Yesterday, she had them on the ropes for quite some time.
Mario, you're right. Very observant. You're right. She has improved in her, what do we call them, like fake lawyering skills? She's not a lawyer, but she's acting as her own lawyer. Yeah, you are right. John Phillips, tell me, something else I want to pick your brain about this morning is when the judge asked if Caught Mom intends to put on evidence today, she said her intention is no, to rest, and essentially the judge is really giving her till Monday to think about that. The judge said, okay, well, the charging conference, Thursday, Friday, court's always dark, and then Monday she'll have an opportunity. So she can go back on that decision and testify or call witnesses. What do you think, John? Is she getting smarter here? The fact that her first indication was no defense here.
She is. Trial work is tough. I've been around many a young associate that doesn't want to do cross-examination until last. They'll do everything else because you have to think on your feet so much. And closing argument is also ahead of her, and that's really tough. It's the first time you really get to address the jury. Opening is kind of generic, and voir dire is great, and you get to ask them questions, but closing's when you got to bring it home. And so I suspect she's going to spend most of Easter weekend working on closing, but she ended strong. She ended well. In cross-examining a detective, there's always those points you can make. So she's watched a lot of court TV and read a lot of books to get ready.
Yeah, she does, John. She was mad. She didn't want us to film it. She doesn't like what she called the commercial, that talks about the murders that she and her husband did. Mario, when we think about what kind of defense she could put on, we know she's limited, right? Her brother, Alex, her good buddy, her protector, he's dead. We know that she killed two of the other potential witnesses, her kids, Tylee and JJ. She's kind of limited. Really, it's just herself she could call. And she gave indications before to the judge that at a previous hearing prior to trial that she would want to testify. Tell me, do you think that right now, would you go so far as to say she's got a decent chance with the jury as opposed to if she would get up there and subject herself to that cross?
So I think she has a good chance right now, and I think if she testifies that she's opening herself up to cross-examination. The prosecutor in this case will destroy her, and that's going to send this whole thing, in a bad way. I think she made a smart move by saying that she's going to rest on Monday. It gives it a whole weekend. It's not unusual to have a day off before summation, just have a charge conference with the judge. And like it's been said, she has the whole weekend now to work on a summation. That's the most important part of the trial. It's your last opportunity to speak to a jury and bring it all home.
Right, Mario. Yeah, all she needs is one to potentially hang the jury. So we'll see. We'll see what she does. She's getting smarter, becoming better with those skills, as you noted. Mario Gallucci, thank you for making time for us this morning. I know we need to let you go get off to court. We appreciate it. John Phillips, every Thursday morning we got you. Stand by kindly, my friend. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's coming up on Opening Statements. My dog is, right here. Come on. My dog.
I know, come on.
I'm coming.
You're seeing it. One victim right here.
The man who was allegedly held captive for 2 decades by his stepmom is finally speaking out. Plus, what's trending in true crime? An ex-wife arrested in a murder-for-hire plot of a former Nashville TV anchor. We'll explain next.
Biggest trials of the year are here on Court TV. Live in the Arizona courtroom as convicted cult mom killer Lori Daybell represents herself.
She wanted to have her day in court, so here we are.
And in Massachusetts as Karen Reed faces a jury again.
She's not afraid to take the stand.
The trials everyone is talking about.
You wish that you could clarify?
He'll be clarified one day, Matt.
Are all on Court TV.
Welcome back. Now for what's trending in true crime. The ex-wife of a local Nashville TV anchor is behind bars this morning. Police say that she tried to hire a hitman to make him, quote, disappear and be put underground. 55-year-old Angelia Solomon is charged with solicitation to commit first-degree murder. This according to court documents. Solomon went with an undercover officer acting as a hitman for the purpose of hiring him to murder her ex-husband, Aidan Solomon. Scripps News Nashville was at Angelia's bond hearing Tuesday, which was ultimately delayed until next month. Aidan Solomon, her ex-husband, was in the courtroom watching. Angelia, as you can see, remains in custody. She's being held on $500,000 bond. Oh my. Okay, fortunately, the ex-husband is okay because this was an undercover officer this is said to have happened with. This morning, we're asking, what's the most damning detail in this case against Angelia Solomon? Let's bring back in attorney John Phillips and welcome in the chief of police at Talladega College, Chris Anderson. Oh boy, Ms. Solomon is in big trouble here, isn't she? Chief Anderson, does it kind of raise the stakes when you have an undercover officer that the agreement is allegedly made with?
Yes, it raises the stakes exponentially when you have a police officer saying that, hey, she told me that she wanted to kill her husband, and that's, in essence, that's basically what you have. So yeah, I think the stakes are raised pretty high for her. But you know, look, I never say there's a slam dunk case. You know how I am. I am always on the defensive when it comes to my cases, and I'm sure these officers are. So I'm sure they've gone through the full extent of the investigation in order for to seek a conviction in this case.
Right. You know, fortunately, everybody is okay, and we are limited on the details. John Phillips, I'm sure you're, dying to know, okay, how did this woman get it to this point, right? What happened to launch that investigation? Tell us, as a lawyer, your thoughts on where Ms. Solomon stands this morning.
Yeah, so those that know me know that I've been involved with a murder for hire case. There's a guy named Joe Exotic, allegedly, and we disagree, had a murder for hire plot against Carol Baskin. And in the second round of that, he told a law enforcement officer that he wanted her dead. And the question was, but did he do anything about it? What actions did he take, as far as money, providing weapons, providing information? And that's where these cases often boil down. And so I wanted to, look away from the camera and look at the officer's face and kind of see how he answered that question. And he did so with great candor and humility, that not every case is an open and shut case. But I'll tell you this, I'll tell your viewers this, when you're When you're texting a law enforcement officer about wanting somebody dead, that's the easiest way to wind up in jail.
So true. Listen to John Phillips, everybody at home. Detective Anderson, now also Chief Anderson, you've spent many years working cases. You have an illustrious career in law enforcement that you've had. And when we think about what it takes to go undercover, unless you've done it, nobody knows what that's like. What is it like getting someone like this to trust you enough to make that kind of an ask?
Wow, that is a very good question, first off, but it would take the rest of this episode for me to explain everything that has to be done, because you have to, it's almost like interviewing the biggest suspect that you've ever interviewed. You've got to build a rapport with this person. You've got to play the role. Sometimes you've got to do things that 90% of the time, you have to do things that you normally would not do as a law enforcement officer in order for that person to trust you enough for you to extract that information. So there's a lot that goes into undercover work. I personally have worked undercover, and I'll be the first one to admit it that I was not very good at it. It takes a very special person to work undercover work. And kudos to this officer for being able to adapt to that role and more than likely save a life.
Oh, great point, Chief. Great point. Thank goodness everybody's okay. I think with a case like this, everybody should be very fortunate going to court as it progresses, that it didn't get to the point of something terrible, and that it wasn't undercover, that this ask was allegedly made to. John Phillips, does this give Angelia Sullivan any hope because this plot was a contained plot if it did happen?
It'll isolate, her defense and make it a little bit easier. Where you go in these cases is to impeach the officer's credibility, almost to the point that, look, you got involved. You were convinced she wanted to kill her husband, and you kind of baited that to happen, right? You walked her down the path instead of stopping her, which would be human nature. And that's, the line between investigative work and entrapment in these cases is where, defense lawyers live and straddle that line and try to say, look, she didn't really try to hire you. You never met with her. And you never even revealed, who you were, truthfully. And so, but you can't get past the fact that she was, contacting somebody to kill somebody else.
John, excellent points. You said exactly what I was thinking, entrapment. I bet you are right, and I bet that's where this defense team will go with her. We'll see what happens. We've got to leave it there for now. Great analysis from you both. As always, John Phillips, Chris Anderson, stand by, please. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, he was allegedly held captive by his own stepmother for 20 years, and now the survivor is speaking out. Plus,
why did you agree to plead the fifth? Because I have a Fifth Amendment right. And everything they do is basically in bad faith. The entire indictment against me was in bad faith, so I see no reason to testify.
Okay. Defendant Aiden Kearney, a.k.a. Turtleboy, Karen Reed's buddy, pleading the fifth. Does not want to be called as a witness in her case. And if he is, he's going to refuse to answer all the questions. What does this say about him? What does it say about the trial that's coming up for her? We'll talk about what's tipping the scales. Welcome back. This morning, we're shining a spotlight on the Connecticut man allegedly held captive by his own stepmother for 20 years. This as he makes his first comments on what he says happened to him. The 32-year-old man who weighed only 68 pounds was rescued from his stepmother's home in February. This after reportedly setting a house fire so that he could be saved. Here's his stepmother on body camera at the scene of the fire.
else is in the house? Who else is in here?
My stepson is in here.
How many other people?
That's it. I have 2 cats.
Everybody's out?
Yes.
But your stepson's still inside?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay,
yes.
come out. Come down the road. Come on.
Her stepson made his first public comments via Facebook saying, quote, "Please call me S. This is not the name given to me by my parents when I was born, but I will use that name as I reclaim control over my life and my future." The stepmom, defendant Kimberly Sullivan, is charged with assault, kidnapping, unlawful restraint, cruelty to persons, and reckless endangerment. She's pleaded not guilty to those crimes. S is also said to be doing much better and is stronger since his rescue. Let's talk about this. I have still with me Chief Chris Anderson. I want to welcome in now former prosecuting attorney, professor, and author Wendy Murphy. Wendy, let me begin to you. You and the chief are both tremendous advocates for victims. When you hear about the state this man was in, and now he's trying to regain control, I don't even think we can begin to fathom what that looks like. Would you kind of take us behind the scenes and what may be going on in this young man's life?
Sure. I mean, who knows the details? I think we will all be disgusted and shocked when those come out. But what strikes me is how incredibly strong he sounds. That is a young man with fortitude and resilience, and good for him. A lot of children would not have survived with the capacity to make some of the statements he's made. So cheers to him. Really, really unusual in my experience that someone who's been abused for so long from such a young age has the ability to communicate so in such a, I don't know, hopeful way. Maybe that's the wrong word. But what it reminds me of, and I think for those of us who remember the book, A Child Called It, there is something disturbing about the fact that a child can disappear at age 11 from the public school system after multiple reports to Child Protective Services were made. And in fact, that's why the child was removed from the public school system, was to stop school officials from trying to protect this poor child. He disappears. Perhaps they, filed some kind of homeschooling desire, these horrendous parents. But he just disappears and no one's on the lookout. I mean, that is really the scariest thing for me when it comes to homeschooling, that we lose the ability to use government resources like protective services agencies to, just inject themselves into the children's lives when necessary to protect them from parents like this.
Right.
It's just so disturbing to me that this still happens today when we know damn well that a child in danger behind closed doors is a child that we really have a hard time protecting. This is a perfect example.
It sure is. Wendy, thank you for that point. Chief Anderson, I would love your thoughts on the point Wendy just raised about how does this happen? Aren't there red flags with people who should be wondering, where's the little boy?
Yes, and Wendy is exactly right. That there should be people advocating for him, and we should be using all of the powers that be in order to find this child. But usually in cases such as this, the biggest advocates are family members, and what these people do are they start to isolate their children or that person from those family members. And after a while, they just they work to make this person disappear. Now, so that happens in most of the cases that I've investigated where you've had a child that was taken away from their loved ones. I remember specifically a case where an older lady had been kidnapped by her son. Actually, he was holding her hostage, and when we found her, she was probably the same weight as this young man was when he was found, and she had been missing for years. But there were people that were still out advocating for him, and that's the whole key behind it. You have to keep advocating for this missing person. You have to keep talking to law enforcement. No matter how many doors close, there's always one that will be open for you. And keep that mindset and that fortitude as you are looking for this person, because his or her life literally depends on your advocating.
Oh, Chief, I love that. Preach. You're giving everybody hope, everybody who's watching this program. And hopefully there aren't that many people who've got a missing loved one, but we know there are cases. We have you both on to talk about them frequently where everyone's just holding out hope. And as you said, keep up the advocacy. Let's go back to S for a moment. Now, I have another quote I want to share with you both from him. He's even older than I realized. So he's clearing up how old he was when this started. So he's saying he's a survivor of more than 20 years of captivity and domestic abuse, held prisoner in his own home from the time he was taken out of the 4th grade at age 11 until 2 months ago. He's 31 now. He admits, I purposely set the fire that helped set me free. Gosh, Wendy, thank goodness he did, right? I mean, I think it's kind of genius. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, wow. Where did he get the idea? How smart was he? How incredible that he had the strategic capacity intellectually, despite what he went through, to be so clever. And you have to be desperate. I mean, this is where the will to live comes from inside of all of us. And if you get to that point where burning a house down is the only thing you can do to help people find you, then bully for you, do it. I hope the word gets out to other abused kids. I have concerns about saying that because obviously anyone who's isolated also isn't going to hear about these sorts of stories, so they're getting the message that these are things you might be able to do. Arson is about as desperate as a child can get, but I say give kids whatever tools they need to get what they need, to get them away from abusive parents in a context where the people who are supposed to be protecting them are the bad guys, and there's no way for police to get inside to help, or protective services or neighbors or anybody. So I just want to say one quick thing, Julie, if you don't mind. One thing that irritated me about the recent news story for this poor kid is that there's a GoFundMe account, which is great. Give him all the money and then some. He deserves a wonderful support system, no exceptions. But there's a request in there for money for legal fees. Now, on Court TV, I just want to be the first one to say, any lawyer who would charge this kid money at this point, shame on you. Do it for free. This is exactly why lawyers do pro bono work.
Yes.
Do it for free. Don't you dare take money from that GoFundMe account. Shame on you, whoever that lawyer is, begging for money from his GoFund. No, stop it.
You're right, Wendy. And as you know, lawyers are encouraged to do so much pro bono work every year. A great point. This quickly, I just have to make 2 points. The attorney representing Ms. Sullivan is saying that the statements by S are filled with, quote, half lies and distorted facts. And while thank goodness everybody got out of this house alive, certainly we would never recommend arson or such a thing. This young man is just very lucky that this was able to be the thing that got law enforcement to rescue him. So fortunately it worked out for him. We have to leave it there for now. Chris Anderson, we've got to say goodbye to you. Chief, thank you for everything this morning. We'll look forward to having you back soon. Attorney Wendy Murphy, you're coming with us next here on Opening Statements.
The key thing is if you're on the sequester list, you can't talk about the case. You can't watch the case. You can't report on the case. So I would effectively not be able to do my job for like 3 months if I was sequestered. So today was a good day.
So this guy's going to talk everywhere except under oath, where he could be subjected to the penalty of perjury. We'll talk about these two defendants, and as more and more is coming out between the two of them and their relationship, Kearney is pleading the fifth. We'll be right back.
I prayed to God, please don't let it happen.
How can we believe you? On the next Interview with a Killer.
The entire family was slaughtered, all choked to death by that smoke and terror.
I tried to get them out. If I could give my life for this, I would. I wish to God it had never happened.
That's not really how God works, is it?
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Welcome back. This morning, we're taking a look at how a potential witness in the Karen Reed retrial could tip the scales. We're talking about Turtleboy, whose real name is Aiden Kearney. He's a self-published blogger and arguably the most outspoken Karen Reed advocate. And we learned in court on Wednesday what he plans to do if he's called as a witness by the Commonwealth.
There's really no reason to beat around the bush here, Your Honor. The Commonwealth is not going to call my client, Mr. Kearney, who for the record is in the second row here today.
Can I just ask, if he were to call your client, would he take the fifth?
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Brennan, do you agree that Mr. Kearney has a Fifth Amendment right?
I think he has a Fifth Amendment privilege. I don't know that he has a Fifth Amendment privilege to all questions we would ask, but the content that we would go into, I think he clearly would have a Fifth Amendment privilege.
All right, so you're not asking for a Lumen Martin hearing?
I'm not. I think I necessarily would have to delve into issues regarding his open indictments against a number of different victims.
Okay.
And I think there's other information that I can't discuss for other reasons because of court orders.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Judge, I would suggest that the court could take judicial notice of the 16 indictments against him.
So the Commonwealth concedes, and I believe there's a valid Fifth Amendment right.
It's important to note that Turtleboy is the only witness in the case to take the fifth. None of the innocent witnesses that he is alleged to have intimidated have taken it. Every single one of them has testified, and they will all do so again. So what does that tell you about Turtleboy? Let's talk about it. I want to bring back in attorney Wendy Murphy and attorney John Phillips. Wendy, starting with you, the turtle's going to hide inside of his shell at the trial. Your thoughts?
That was a good one. Can I refer to him as the turd instead of the turtle? Because I'm trying to be as polite as I can without offending everybody in your audience. And, you know, the words that I'm thinking of using are probably objectionable. He is the most repulsive, harmful, destructive force in this case by far. Now, let's just be clear. I respect that he has a right to assert his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. It's an important constitutional right. But what that means to us in the public is we can and should infer that he is hiding evidence that proves he committed crimes. You know, let's just be clear about that. Innocent people do not invoke the Fifth Amendment. Now, let me be clear. When I say innocent, I mean people with nothing to hide. Because as the judge made reference, and you heard it in that clip, if the prosecutor thought that his invocation of the Fifth Amendment was not in good faith, that he was just doing it as an excuse so he could sit in the courtroom and pretend to be a reporter, they would have had a hearing. The judge could have said, I find that his assertion of this privilege is not in good faith. He must testify. No, everyone in the room said, he's got stuff to hide. He's a criminal. He's got massive exposure here in terms of spending a good amount of time behind bars once he's convicted. So absolutely let him take the fifth, but let's all understand what that means.
Yes.
He's done some very bad things in this case. He needs to take the fifth, because if he did testify against himself, that wouldn't be good for his liberty. That's what it all means.
Right, right. He'd be in even worse trouble than he's already in. You're right, Wendy. And how about the point, I think this can't be underscored enough, that the reason he's got those 16 indictments we heard referenced are because he allegedly intimidated these witnesses, these independent people who didn't ask to be part of this case, just happened to be there that night and can offer something. These innocent people, they all testified. They all were very open in trial number one. They're all going to testify again in trial number two. None of them are taking the fifth. And he's accusing all of them of hiding something. John Phillips, what does that say to you about him?
It says a lot. And he did an interview with the Intelligencer. I'm not familiar with it, but he described himself, and I got to look down, as three things. One, an activist. Okay. He said it, an activist. Two, a journalist. And three, an entertainer or satirist. Those three things are entirely inconsistent. You can't be an investigator and go through a case and have objectivity while also being an entertainer, while also worried about your YouTube hits and your social media, bounce. And that's the problem here, is he's trying to wear all of these hats, and one's interfering with the other. And certainly he has a Fifth Amendment right, and with an open indictment, the prosecutors certainly don't want to go into that and reveal some information that shouldn't be revealed yet. But it creates this conflict. And, again, he's a guy that wears, and markets free Karen Reed T-shirts. That's not objective. He gets exposure and he gets money from her free campaign, and yet won't testify. It's gross where we're headed with social media and podcasters interfering with court.
Right. You're so right, John. I have seen so much more disinformation about this case, disinformation and misinformation about this case than I have any other one I have ever covered. This has been the most vile case for so many reasons, and the victim has gotten lost. And I know you both appreciate that so much as you are advocates for victims. And when we think about what this is really about, this trial has turned into a shameful circus. It really has. And when we think about the origination of this circus, who does it go back to? Gee, Mr. Turtleboy and his friend, Ms. Karen Reed. Now this relationship is being exposed. Your thoughts on how Hank Brennan has now made public what those two kept quiet for so long?
Yeah, really important in this case. And by the way, I know we've been saying the only person who took the fifth was this turd man, but Karen took the fifth too. Let's be honest about it, right? So the two criminals took the fifth. Who's surprised? Nobody. But one of the important things in this case that we really didn't see last time, we all thought about it, but we didn't hear it from the prosecutor per se in a way that sounded like it was going to make a big difference. Hank Brennan now is saying, part of what's going on in this case is a disinformation campaign bought and paid for by this criminal who thinks that that's a tactic, that, in defense attorney school, one of the things they allow you to do is just pay for PR firms and pay for protesters to show up and pay for bot farms so that social media creates this frenzy and sense that you're actually innocent and it's all a conspiracy. I mean, there are so many mentally ill people who will just buy into that regardless of the evidence. So I think what Hank Brennan's doing is making that part of his case now, saying, not only am I going to prove her guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, I'm going to prove that she was part of a campaign to mislead the public. So that's a very different approach. I was a prosecutor in Massachusetts. I've never had to do that before, both prove my case and disprove nonsense.
Right.
But we're going to hear that in this case.
Wendy, thank you for pointing that out. You're right. He's going to expose it all. He already started, and thank goodness for that, because this is just all about getting to the truth. And Wendy, John, you both, of course, know this, or courties know. Legally, we know Karen Reed is cloaked in the presumption of innocence. Hank Brennan and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have that burden to carry. And no one, the jury, can hold it against her if she doesn't testify. Point taken, Wendy, that she's done a lot of talking to interviews of her choosing and not in the trial last time. We'll see if she changes her mind this time. Stand by for that. We'll have to leave it here for now, but great points from you both always. Wendy Murphy, John Phillips, I know you're busy people. We have to let you both go off to court. Hope to see you back here again soon. That is all for this episode of Opening Statements, friends. You can watch it again. You can share it. Go to courttv.com to do that. We put the episodes up for you every day. Just click on the Shows tab.